Hello, 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 hello. How are you today? How are you today? All right. So sorry for the tardiness. We originally was supposed to do this at 2 o'clock, but time got away from me. And yeah, we had to navigate a little bit. Had a fun, fulfilled day. So glad that you all have been with me on this live series journey. And when I tell you, it's been an amazing journey sharing all these tidbits just to get you ready for the beginning of the school year. Okay. So if you see me looking up or looking down, it's really just because I am looking at two different devices. And this time, my phone is actually over the computer instead of on top of the computer because the battery is low. So that's neither here nor there. Not even really important, but I just wanted you to know what was going on. If you notice that I'm not looking directly into the camera. And I agree, Jamila, staying cool. It's very hot here in Nashville. Oh my gosh. Not as hot as it has been. So I'm gonna be thankful for the cool breeze that's papa locking out here in these Nashville streets. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and dig into it today. If you don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tandra Porter, and I'm the Chief Vision Strategist with Cultivated Connections Design and Consulting, where I help educators cultivate healing, social awareness, and education through the arts. So think arts integration and all that other good stuff. All right. So today's topic is inclusive teaching strategies for the creative classroom. So the reason why I decided to pop up with this particular conversation is really for the sole reason of a lot of times we as creative educators often do not know how to group our students, if you will, for like group projects without, it being a super stressful ordeal. It doesn't always have to be stressful. In fact, it can be a very fun situation if you allow it. Okay. So if you see me looking down, just looking in my notes. So flexible grouping, I like to call it flexible grouping versus inclusive teaching strategy, just because that's the thing. You're just being flexible with how you group children. Whether you're grouping them based off of their academic levels, which is a blessing and a curse, right? Even in the creative classroom, you have some students that excel at certain things and some may not. So you might want to be a little bit flexible and leverage those talents and skills of all the students in your classrooms. Okay, and this is where you really see the gifts of children excel. Like grouping is one of my favorite thing, and really allowing them to group. Okay. So, flexible grouping is a must. It's a must to ensure that you are accommodating every student in the classroom, some shape, form, or fashion. Okay. Whether there's intellectual disabilities, whether there's no disabilities, physical disabilities, like you need to ensure that all students are doing the things, having fun, and that you have accommodated them so that they all can learn. Your EL students, English language learners, if you don't know what EL mean, your like I mentioned, your students that have are served under the special education platform. You have to serve every student. Okay. And I want to make sure that that is clear. I personally strongly dislike when we lower the bar, lower the opportunity, lower the learning experience, if you will, just because there's bias about certain students not meeting the goal, right? It's not that you don't change the goal, you change the action steps, okay? Okay. And flexible grouping is one of the ways that you can do it. Students oftentimes learn better from their peers. They also sometimes behave better for their peers and interact better for their peers. Because they want to make their peers proud, right? So flexible grouping is the jam. It's literally one of my favorite things. It allows students to leverage each other's strengths, as a way to thrive in the classroom. I saw a lot of that last year. I actually did a lot more grouping last year than I ever have, just because I wanted to last year, class to be more collaborative. So yeah, I definitely saw a lot of that. Students that I didn't know had certain talents. I was like, oh my goodness, you really are like mad creative. I knew you was good, but and you're able to see the students' different processes. It was just really interesting. I'll tell you some of those stories in a minute. So I know this technique is used a lot in the general ed classroom, but that doesn't mean you can't do it in your own. Okay. In fact, if you are working inside of a public school, private school, charter schools, take your creative self into those gen ed classrooms and see how these other teachers are doing things. Just because you are a creative teacher, whether that's related arts, elective, PE, whatever, does not mean that those strategies that are happening in the gen ed classrooms that they don't apply to you and that they won't help your class excel. Okay? So the next time you're sitting in a PD that wasn't created for us creative educators, look at it with a different lens. What can I learn in this PD that can take my class to the next level? Okay. So let me know if you're feeling me so far. Let me know if you're feeling me. And before we move in, what are some of the flexible grouping strategies have you done in your classroom? I'm going to go ahead and start off with mine. So a couple weeks ago, I shared a book with you all. Where is it? There it is. I shared a book with you all, which was the Acting Right by Sean Lang book. So as I mentioned the other week, his work is all about using mindfulness to get students to behave, if you will, to think about their actions before they, you know, do something that they're not supposed to do, right? And once you get through the first part of this particular book where he talks about mindfulness, cooperation, collaboration, nope, take that back. It is he talks about the body. What do you do with your body? Then he goes into what do you do with your voice? And then what do you do with your imagination? Like that's a whole situation by itself. But then as he continues to go into the book, he then talks about cooperation and collaboration. And he uses this strategy that he calls inclusive and exclusive grouping strategies. And the reason why I'm sharing this is I always start my groupings or collaboration projects with this particular technique. And it's really simple. I'm not going to say it's his technique personally. I'm not going to say it's Sean's technique personally because it could be his, I'm unsure, or it could be, just something beautiful that we all have used, but I personally love it to death. So I will call it the Focus 5 counseling strategy because that is his consulting firm. So what it is you give the students a number, okay? And was more of a countdown. So I would say by the time I count to 7, you will make groups of 5. So, you can keep it real basic and they have to be there by 7. The first few times you do it, and he does have an activity in the book, but the first few times you do it, it's complicated because you got the students, of course, going straight to their friends, and you also have students, at conflict with one another, if you will, sometimes because you want to hang out with your friends, you want to be in a group with your friends, and you begin to see this moment of, oh my goodness, I've made my partner or peer not feel so great. And the reason why I'm saying this first, do this particular strategy first, because there's a lot of reflection in that. We then go to, well, you don't have enough people, you don't have 5 people, or you have more than 5. What happened here? Okay. And he does walk you through those steps in their particular book. What happened here? And the students gets to reflect versus me taking over as the educator and maneuvering them. Now, there are times when you do have to do that once for the sake of, your pacing of your lesson. However, I like to let the children figure it out. Like, what was the issue? How did we solve it? How should we solve it? What are the next steps? All that jazz. Okay. So you will do that as many times until the children meet your goal and do what it is that you need them to do or want them to do. I always start the year off using that strategy. We do not go into the project, we do not go into any of that. We just simply practice making groups. And and solving the issues in case of a conflict. Okay. So I definitely wanted to start that up. If you could also look at that particular strategy on YouTube, I believe you can search for a 1 minute challenge, a 1 minute tableau challenge. I believe he has some work of his consultants actually doing it. So definitely check that out. It is a fun situation. And once the kids get the procedure down, baby, when I tell you it takes all of 30 seconds, once they get the procedure down and understand, like, okay, it's not about me, not about what I want, it's about this team, boom, baby, it's life. All right. So that's the first strategy. So again, I highly recommend this book. If you have not gotten the Acting Right book by Sean Lang, go to Amazon and please go grab that, because that particular flexible grouping situation is in there. Another strategy that I absolutely love to do in both the Gen Ed classroom when I'm doing arts integration, or my creative classroom, which is my dance classroom. I've even done this at summer camps, things like that, is still using that Sean Lane strategy of, by the time I count to 7, you're making groups of 4 and the kids get there. I like to add another layer of it, of just, now I'm going to add a job. Okay. And so the beauty of adding a role or a job is, one, children, anybody, I'm not going to just say children, but people love to feel valued. They love to feel important. Most of the time, I allow the students to choose their role. But sometimes there are times where I, as the educator, need to choose their roles. Okay. So I usually will, if I'm allowing the students to choose their role, and I usually do this with my olders a little bit more than with my youngers, I usually will have a bin and I have badges, if you will, inside of the bin. And the badges will say like scribe, recorder, speaker, and there's one materials handler. You can find a whole bunch of those badges on Teachers Pay Teachers. In fact, you can make your own. It's whatever it is that you want to do. But I made my own and laminated them so we can constantly reuse them. And like I mentioned, once the students are in the group, every now and then I will give them the role depending on what it is that I know that they will thrive in. Like, if a sweetheart does not have good handwriting, no, baby, you cannot be the scribe. I need someone that has great handwriting, so that we all can read the words on page. Okay. If I know that there is someone who needs an additional responsibility of grabbing the materials, because you have that child that's like shy but needs to kind of have a role, a very important role, then boom. I also love to give the students that, usually I like to call them the nucleus, those students that sometimes have needs a little love, a little more love, I usually would give them timekeeper, because the students around them, and the reason why I say a nucleus, because the students around them are usually the ones that are following them when they're not at their best behavior, or when they are at their best behavior. So giving them that responsibility of, you are the timekeeper. You got to hold your people accountable. One, because they already listen to you anyway. But I don't tell the kid that, but I know this, like, they follow everything that this particular child does. So let me give this particular child something great to work for, to work at, to hold their friends and peers, their group mates accountable. And it works almost every single time, because they're like, no, 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 we need to stay on task. We only have 5 minutes, and literally give them the timer if you don't have like a whole class timer that you're showing. So roles definitely work. It allows your attention seekers to become leaders of their group. Okay. So definitely add roles. Again, there are so many different roles that you can add for your groups. Look on Pinterest, y'all. Look on Pinterest. Okay. I did not make up these strategies. These are just some of the strategies that I personally implemented in my creative classroom. All right. So the next strategy, I like to call the pre-plan and reveal. Like I mentioned, there are moments or activities where you as the educator are going to have to pre-plan the groups. So do that. You can I've done it where I've put them all on a spreadsheet or on a in the side of a table and revealed it on the projector. I've also, depending on what the task is, put it on a bulletin board and use the what's that? Clothespins on the side with their names. That gets to be a bit much because I see so many groups a day. Well, not groups a day, but groups within 1 week is usually 12 to 14 classes. So that begins to be like a lot. So I would definitely say, depending on how many kids you see a day, you might want to think about how do you want to reveal those names. And I would say make it in a pretty little spreadsheet, Canva that thing, and there you go. Voila. Kids love to see their names presenting on stuff. People love to see their names presented on stuff. And it's like, well, this is your group. You know who was in your group. So definitely pre-plan and reveal if you need to do that. There are certain classrooms where I have to pre-plan instead of letting them figure out their groups by themselves, because every classroom is different, personalities are different, so you use your best judgment on how to group students based on the activity in your classroom. Okay, this is not a every class thing, but I do use the flexible grouping strategies a lot more than not, just because I love seeing students collaborate. These are my go-tos. There are a lot out here. I've seen where people would get like the paint chips from Home Depot, and students get different things. Or students can match up based off the paint chips that they have. I've seen people use dominoes. I've seen people use um socks. That just actually just recently happened. That was actually a professional development. Um, you can use anything as long as you can find a match. Come on now. Those are just some fun ways that you can do flexible grouping. It doesn't have to be this stressful thing. Okay. Allow your students to have some responsibility. But in order for this to work, you have to make sure that your procedure into rolling this out is cold. What I mean by that is that your students know it deeply within the pits of their souls, so that there's no question, there's no conflict. They know what to do when there's moment of conflict, whether that's talk it out or, tell the teacher. Of course, you as the educator will be watching. You should be watching. This is not a free for all. You are still the teacher. But at this moment, you're facilitating the environment. Okay. I hope that makes a lot of sense. So I said I was going to tell a story. So last year, I did this with my fifth graders a lot. Why? Because they're older and we was getting real creative in the classroom, especially with choreography. They were thoroughly enjoying our choreography unit. And I wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to work with who they wanted to work with. And it was also a smaller class. I think we had maybe 35 fifth graders total. So it was a lot easier to do it, um, you know, in their smaller classrooms. Um, and I won't say I've done this with my bigger classrooms too, but we got a little exploratory with my small class of fifth graders. Okay. So before I tell that story, let me know in the comments what strategies, flexible strategies have you used, flexible grouping strategies have you used just to get students from their seats into groups. Um, Other than turn and talks, like we love pairing, but how else have you done this work? So if you're just coming in, we're talking about flexible grouping strategies, how to get kids from being individuals into groups, and just kind of some fun ways that we've done it. I've gone through several different strategies where, and then I'll tell my story. Several different strategies of I've used the Focus 5, inclusive and exclusive. Oh no. Oh my goodness, you can't hear me on Instagram. Oh no. Still can't hear me? Oh, that hurt my feelings. Okay, y'all. Hold on, everybody else. All right. Okay. So, if you are on the other platforms, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. We have been having some internet issues, so I don't know. It could be my internet too. Yeah, definitely let me know. People in the comments, let me know. Can you hear me? We definitely have been having a lot of drops of the internet here in my household. Oh, too bad you can't see live from Instagram on the computer. I was trying to leave a message, but I'm also on YouTube, okay? All right. So if you are here, let me know. Let me know. Huh, that's so weird. Okay, we're going to get back into it. We're definitely going to get back into it. Sorry about that. So, as I was mentioning, I use Sean Lane's Acting Right book, which is also very amazing. It gives the exclusive and inclusive, like little strategies just to get kids to understand what it means to be inclusive and what it means to, how it makes other feel when we are excluding them. So very beautiful strategy. But as I was saying, in with my fifth graders, we played around with this a lot more. And some of the things that were revealed to me during this time was, oh my gosh, y'all. So we did a choreography unit, and I was like, by the time I count to seven, you're gonna make groups of two. You're gonna make a pair of two. In the or pair of two or three. I did give them an option. We only had like maybe 13, 14 kids in there in this at this one particular time, just because there was a lot of moving pieces outside of my classroom happening where children were having to go to other spots of the school, right? So it was like get in a group of two or three, whatever number we have right now. And I didn't feel like figuring out those numbers, I'll be honest, because kids were coming in, they were coming out, they were coming in and coming out. And, I allowed the students to orchestrate this basically. Because I didn't know how many students I was going to have. Never really did during this part of the school year, which was fine. It is what it is. Students need their reading interventions, okay? Um, and we were working on choreography. They had just learned about the different choreographic structures. And baby, I had them to pull a card. They got a chance to pick the different choreographic structure that they wanted to use. And when I tell you the beauty that came out of it, one group, that is so interesting. One group, I had them to One group I had them to choose whether they, um hold on, I lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah, one group I had them to choose whether they wanted to do the, what's that? AABA? ABA. Yes, wanted them to do the ABA, and the other one, they did theme and variation. I had, like, all of them posted on the wall so they can go wherever they wanted to go. And as they were, like, going through this beautiful journey, y'all, of just creating, I started to see their different, like, processing styles. There were different creative processing styles. One group, they are writers. Or one, he is a very beautiful, eloquent speaker. I've told this child, like, never let anybody say you talk too much. You are a storyteller. Because, baby, when I tell you this boy could tell a story, it's amazing. So he chose to, thank you for letting me know. He chose to write, physically write down the steps that they were doing in their choreography. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And his partner, who loves to journal. Like she never went anywhere without her journal. It works so well. And that was so beautiful that when once we had our reflection, they both discussed how they had never worked with each other while being in a creative way before. Like they've known each other since first grade, but they've never actually had a chance to work with one another. And to also see how one another worked. That was so beautiful how they just explained this. I wish I would have recorded their voices on this, and they were like, yes, I didn't know that he was such a great storyteller in this sense. Like, and they're kids and they were digging at each other, throwing a little shade, and his partner was like, yeah, he does talk a lot, but right now this works because he was able to explain our our dance piece so well, and it was just like one of those beautiful moments where children got a chance to see each other in a different light. Y'all, it was gorgeous. It was so amazing. So that was one situation. And another group, it was a group of three, two girls and one boy. One of the boy is, all of the children are intelligent, but you know how some students have a very high emotional intelligence. Yeah, that's him. We call him little professor. Because he just gives you that vibe, right? He says, I don't consider myself as a dancer, but just like you said, Miss Porter, if we have a body, we can dance. So I'm gonna try anyway. And he's that kid, y'all. I wish that I could have him on social media too, because he's amazing. But his two partners are very creative in the field of dance as well as just creativity. One, she can write poetry like this. The other, she's a dancer. She does go to a dance studio, and she also is very great with words. So it was beautiful again to see children play with words. This was not instructed. It was all them, y'all. It was all them. Anika said, "Shade with affirmations." Yes, my children were shady, very shady. Um, but in this moment, it was one of those beautiful sit back and watch the magic happen moments, y'all. The reason why I say this is, mind you, I told you, young man, he's like, I ain't feeling this. He's usually looked at as the leader in the classroom because he is that student that has that maturity about himself. This time, he took a step back because he was like, not my zone of genius. Let me take a step back. And he let the two girls create the choreography and be the creators that they are. Um, and in the space that they thrive. But he also still contributed. He gave his opinion. He even gave suggestions. It was just very beautiful about, like, no, maybe we should try this because he can't do that, but I can. It was just, oh my gosh, it was beautiful. If I ever find the video, I'm gonna have to blur their faces so y'all can see their bodies. Ah, it was gorgeous. It was amazing. And then again, we had another reflection moment, and that came out as well. The young lady, the dancer, she was like, I've never danced with a boy before. She was like, but we wasn't really dancing together, but we were. We were being a great team. We were working together. We worked through our conflict and our problems. That group really didn't have any conflict that day. They actually worked very well that particular day. Um, and again, it was one of those like, oh my gosh, this works. This works. Allowing children to be leaders in their learning, it works. One way that you do that is through flexible grouping. Take your hands off of things sometimes. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not teaching, you're not in the room. It just means go from educator to facilitator. Okay. And I find moments of when we do flexible grouping, where I let the kids pick their groups as best as possible within reason, and all of that, beautiful things happen. Now for my students who need that extra guidance, I do, have to put some parameters on there. Okay. I'm not saying it's a free for all. Certain classes, we can't do it where they have to pick their own groups. Certain classes, I got to pick the groups. Or certain students, I'm like, nope, now because we have that relationship. Now, when you go over here with such and such, y'all gonna cut up. Is that a good idea? And they would usually be like, yes or no. What should you do? Pick somebody else because I know I can't hang out with my friend because we're not going to be focused. Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for knowing yourself. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Let's go check these comments here. So, yes. Anika said that's wonderful and special. Tamara says, I love a notation kid. Yes. Yes. And I actually think I'm gonna implement talking about dance notation this year. I haven't done it in the past with my elementary kids, so I'm kind of excited, at least with the upper academy ones. Yep, Anika said kids shade with affirmations. I like that. The youngster recognized his zone of incompetence and said, girl, when I tell you he's the most truthful child ever, he cracks me up. Tamara said, oh, yes, those moments are priceless. Facilitation, yes. And you learn so much, especially when you may not know all the content either. Got to know your students. Gradual release to the facilitation. Yes, you have to gradually release facilitation. You have to. You as the educator are not meant to handhold them on everything, okay? And I feel like the way our educational system has become, one, we've taken creativity out of schools. Y'all have heard me say it. I believe that creativity kills that schools kills creativity. I'm gonna say it and I stick beside it. Schools kill creativity for the teachers, for the principals, for the students. Schools kill creativity. I said it. I don't apologize for it. I said what I said. Okay, run tell that. All right. So, and with that being said, because we are oftentimes so stuck on data that we forget to just have fun while learning. We forget to teach children how to resolve conflict, how to speak to one another, to operate in a spirit of love and kindness and collaboration. As I told y'all last week, you have to know your values. You have to know your values of why you do this work. One of my values is to ensure that students know how to solve conflict. Just because you don't like so and so does not mean you can't work with them. Okay. So teaching that early. And one way that I do that is by using flexible grouping strategies. Make them kids into some groups, honey. Let the magic happen. But you also got to plan the lesson out beforehand. Okay. This ain't no just, oh, we finna just get in groups. Nope. What they're doing in them groups. What's going to keep them busy and active in learning. Okay. Yes. Anika said legislate is out of the what? Legislate is out of the teachers and assess it out of the children. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. We're gonna have to have a live just about these laws, honey. Okay, legislate it out of the teachers and assess it out of the children. I might have to use that as a slogan, honey. Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for that. But yeah, definitely use grouping strategies. In fact, I'm going to see if I can show you on Pinterest since I'm here on my computer and Instagram wasn't working. Don't just take my word for it. There's so many strategies, fun strategies. And I also think about like we as adults enjoy getting in groups and enjoy working with our friend. For all of y'all who lead in PDs out there, whether you're doing it in your school or in your business, do the same thing. Break up those teams. Find some flexible grouping strategies. Sorry if y'all hear me typing. Let's see. Probably should have had this pulled up, but I just thought about it. I'll create a freebie for y'all because I can't find it now. The one time I'm actually looking for it, I can't even find it. But allow students to even like name their groups. Like it seemed like something so simple and that it's a waste of time, but no, it gives a sense of pride for what you're doing. Think about the things that you liked as a child. Okay? Recreate those things. The learning doesn't stop because the children took 30 seconds to agree on a group name. No, now they got pride. Now they're really in tune to what it is that they are doing because they now have a name. You know, when you name something, you have, some pride behind it. Also, allowing presentations, moment of presentation. This is another beautiful thing about flexible grouping strategies. Like I was mentioning, there are students that are like really, really shy and don't want to talk. You are y'all have known me by now. I don't allow opt out. I'll allow modification. Okay. So if you are that shyer student, you don't necessarily have to be the person that's the spokesperson, right? However, you have participated in the movement exercise, this, that, and the other, and we'll let the scholar that is more of a spokesperson be the spokesperson. Like, use their gifts for good, right? Or one thing that I've also done is everybody has to say at least one word in this phrase or in this sentence, or everyone has to explain one thing about this, whatever, or name your part. The voice has to be on at some point, okay? So it just allows leverage of one another's gifts, talents, successes, all those different things. Yes, teaching them to be little entrepreneurs. You got to work together, okay? So definitely look up flexible group of strategies. You can find a whole bunch on Pinterest, baby. You can go on Teachers Pay Teachers and find some. Like I mentioned, I love to do roles. I love to give my students jobs, especially when they're in the groups. Miss Porter likes to delegate things. Okay. I like to delegate things. So, with that being said, give the kids a job. All right. So I hope you all have gotten inspired off of our conversation today about flexible grouping strategies. I have three things that I want to share with you. We have two freebies in the bio. So if you're watching me on LinkedIn or Facebook, I will drop the link in the comments on those spaces. And I will also figure out what's going on over here on Instagram. But I do have two freebies for you. One is a bingo board. So we're talking about cultivating a positive classroom. Again, have fun. Have fun with yourself. Gamify the things. Game classroom culture with yourself, okay? And what I mean by that is simply play the game. Print out the bingo card. And every time you do something, check it out, okay? And give yourself a prize. So that's also in our bio. And then I also have a self-reflection journal for you guys to go ahead and enjoy. It's called Unleash Your Teaching Magic. So make sure you grab that. It's beautiful. You have prompts and things. You don't necessarily have to write in this particular journal if you don't want to, but you may definitely, come in, get your life to ground yourself before the school year starts. And lastly, if you did not know it or have not been hanging out with us or have not seen the advertisement for our upcoming 3-day workshop, is asynchronous. It's called Setting the Rhythm, a 3-day masterclass to design a harmonious culture in the related arts classroom. And it will be hosted from July 21st to 23rd, 2023. Okay. And you may register at cultivatedartseducator.com. It's not just for arts educators. Okay. That is the main people. But if you are a program coordinator, whether you're working at the Boys and Girls Club, if you are a daycare provider, if you are a aftercare worker, this will help you. Basically, if you are serving a large amount of children, let me move this. Let me move this. If you're serving a large amount of children, you need to be here. Okay? Even if you're not in a traditional classroom, you need to be here. Classroom culture is just that. What is the environment that you're creating for the children, the students that you are serving? Okay. So I'm going to pop that back up there so that you can grab the website. And there's also the QR code right on the side of that. And like I mentioned, it is a asynchronous workshop. It will be released. The videos will be released over the course of 3 days. So if you can't pop in on those 3 days, that is totally fine. You will have lifetime access to the 3 videos. Okay. You also will have the workbook and a resource hub. So, yeah. And in that resource hub, you will be able to in that hub, you'll be able to hang out with other educators that, are doing the things that you do, or you just need to talk and ask a question. Okay. Yes. Just double check and make sure I have not forgotten to tell you anything. Yes. So let's go and have a great, happy summer, because it's still summertime over here. And let's get ready to get started to have a great and successful school year. If one way that you can do that is just by joining us during our 3 day workshop, where we'll have a lot of fun and you can watch at your own pace with just grounding ourselves in what it is that we need to do to prepare for a harmonious classroom culture. I have to be honest, you have to do it on the front end versus the middle. When you're doing things in the middle or closer to the end, it is hard. And that's where a lot of the frustration happens, right? Where you get incredibly burned out. Do the work on the front end, prepare on the front end. But that's all that I have. I look forward to popping on with you all another day. Talk to you later. Bye.